Okay, great. Okay, on the left-hand side, I have logged into the mobile app, and on the right-hand side is the same Palladium that we have open. Okay, so on the mobile app, after you have registered and everything has been set up, you can log into the mobile app by creating a user and having that same email address added to that user. So if we go to the control panel, we'll come into users, and you'll see your users here. You'll use the email that's attached here with the same password that is used. Great. Upon logging in, it's going to ask you to choose the company. We only have that this company here that's available for us. So we'll automatically go into this one. Great. So we have different sections of the mobile app that has changed. The versions have been different, so there is a different layout with different subcategories in each one. Okay. In today's one, we're going to be using the Salesforce and the warehousing module. So under Salesforce, we have the sales order, sales quote, freehand quotes, capturing PODs, expense claims, customers, and CRM activities. Okay, so this would basically be your normal accounts receivable side. The only difference is that you're not able to actually create sales invoices. You can't actually process completely through that sales invoice. You can capture a POD, which will then be attached to that sales invoice, but that would be as far as it goes. Okay, to start off, we're going to go into the sales order. To create a sales order, we'll click on the plus sign on the top right-hand side. We'll then add in a customer. We'll add in a salesperson if need be, a reference, and then you can start adding in your products. You can either scan for the item itself, or you can just add in the item manually. So you'll see here it will display the images that's attached to the item. So we're going to be needing a 5-liter pump. It'll ask you for the quantity, the price, if there's any discount, amounts, tax codes, and the location it's from. You can then click on add, and there you'll have your item here. You can scan for another item, or if need be, you can continue adding items from here. Yeah. Then you can go into and move on to the order details. This will take all the information from the customer that is used. You then have your customer information. You then have the email address. So if there is going to be an email sent to the customer straight away, you can then create a body text for the email. The sales order will then be sent to them. And then you have your files. So this is for them to sign the sales order. You can have an attachment, or you can capture a photo. After you've completed your sales order, you can click on the tick, click on yes. It will ask you, would you like to email the document? We can just say no. And there's our sales order created. You'll see here, if we go into our sales order, we can go back one, and here's the same sales order that was created. Okay. The same process goes for the sales quote as well as the freehand quotes. It is basically the same process. You would have your normal quotations that you can either click on to edit, or you can create your own freehand quote from here, which is the same process as your sales order. You can go into the sales order, click on a sales order to edit if need be, and continue. We then have our capture POD. So our capture POD is to enter the document of your invoice or to scan if there is any barcodes on that document. So you can see here, it will show that invoice details. We'll then have the POD signed. And we can click on the tick. We then have our POD captured. So you can see here on the top that there now is a POD. We'll be able to click on it and open up the PDF document. You can see the signature on the bottom left here. Then we have our expense claims. So expense claims is done via an expense vendor. So you can see if we go to the control panel and we go to our users and we go to the user I created, there's a mobile expense vendor here. This would then be our default mobile expense vendor. And this is to claim for any type of expenses, whether it be for the items, or other things that the vendor has done. It does have to be set up differently though. We can also do this via an attachment in case you need proof of an image, or let's say the expense came from a different document and you'll have to add it in on the other side, or you'll have to add it in the office. You can then attach an image. And you also have a camera image if you'd like to take a photo of the document. We then have the customers. So basically, if we go into our accounts receivable, into our customers here, this is the same thing. We have all our customers on the left-hand side. We can click on them to edit them if need be. And you can see wherever there's a little red star, it means that these are mandatory. Or we can create a new customer by clicking on the plus sign. Mobile test, the contact. We'll need a phone number and an email address. We then have our contacts, our settings if there's any other options for the customer, our shipping locations, any optional fields, and trading times, as well as taxes. After this is complete, you can click on the tick. And there is our customer created. So we can just quickly search for him. You can see it's created on the side with all the details that we've added. Great. So we are able to change them if need be. So we can go back into our mob test and change in any of the details. We then have our CRM activities. So if your company does use CRM, which is keeping track of certain customers and activities, then you'll be able to see all your productivity or any tasks that still need to be done under your user. This is all done under your CRM here. Again, this is all set up on a separate video for all your CRM. So if you'd like to watch that video, you can just let me know and I can send it to you. But CRM is basically to capture or to make sure that you get back to your clients on a daily basis, or if you have any tasks that need to be done, you'll see them here. Okay, the mobile app just takes advantage of that and makes sure that it reads the same information, and you can also update your tasks. Finally, we have our warehousing. So under our warehousing is basically movement for all our inventory. You'll see here that we have our branch transfers and bin transfers. This is basically the same options on this side. We have our bin warehouse transfer and the warehouse goods receiving. So to start off, we'll go to the bin transfer. And this is just moving any bins within the same location. So this means that we're selecting an item, and removing it from a specific bin to another bin. Unfortunately, I don't have another bin. Let me just add one quickly. So let's go to our locations, our default locations, and create a separate bin. We call this bin 2. And click on OK. So when we come into bin transfer, we'll then select an item. Let me just make sure all the items are allowed in there. Great. Okay. Apologies on that. Just looks like it needed a bit of a refresh. Okay, so you can see here that I selected the item. It's going to ask me how many quantities I'm going to be moving from the one default bin to the bin 2. So it's going to ask us, so if removing 3 of them, it's saying removing three items from the default bin to the bin 2. We'll click on save. We'll then click on save again. And then we can click on the tick to actually move the items from one side to the other. So we could just check our inventory quickly. You can see under locations that there is our 3 that we moved from the one bin location to the other. Okay, then we have warehouse transfer, which is basically the same thing, but moving it from one whole location to another location. We're not moving within the same location, we're moving it to completely different locations. So we'll click on warehouse transfer. We'll then select an item. So we're moving it from our default location to our warehouse location. Click on save, and we can click on the tick box. After that's been done, you can see under your branch transfer, sorry, not bin transfer, it is a separate transfer. So if we go to our inventory items, locations, you can see the 2 that has been moved to the warehouse location. Great. Then you have your stock pick. So this is basically picking out, or sorry, your pick tickets. So if we create a sales order and we create a pick ticket, come into warehouse. We then print out the pick ticket. And then we can go into stock pick. Apologies on that. Have to just be making sure that the okay, apologies on that. I will have to get back to you with that. Okay, but moving on, we have our warehouse goods received. So this is our GRV on Palladium. So here's our GRV on the right hand side. We can then load in our purchase order and receive the stock. The same thing can be done on the mobile app. So we'll select the warehouse goods transit. We'll click on a purchase order that we've received. We can then make sure that we've received all 7, the vendor's details, files. We can then sign for the document and click on received. Yeah, unfortunately, this is a bit changed because of my sample company and the version that I'm using, but in your case, on the live company, it would work just fine. So after you've processed your goods received, then you can then process your invoice. Again, the mobile app does not allow you to process invoices. This is mainly for preparation, having everything done beforehand. We then have stock count. So stock count, again, it is not recording the stock count. If we click on stock count 1, we can then count in for specific locations. We'll then add in the items that we need to count. And we can click on save. So basically you would add in all the items, all the quantities that need to be changed or adjusted via the stock count under each bin and each location. Once you've successfully saved the stock count, click on OK. And when we come into our inventory on our stock count option, there is a download mobile stock count. We can click on that and you can see it created a stock count sheet for us. We'll then be able to download it and attach the file or import the file for all the details that's there. So there won't be any need to manually do any of this. We can import the file that's there. Then we have our put away. So basically our put away is making sure that our GRV has moved to our specific locations. So it's just stating that, okay, this ladder is then going to be moving to this location at this bin. We will make sure with both of them. We'll click on save and we'll basically put it away. So it's just telling us that it's going to those specific locations. and that would then be our GRV complete. We then have our delivery advice. So if the system does use any delivery advices, you can then create a sales order, then go into the sales order to create the delivery advice. Make sure that all the items have been saved or added, saying that they have all been delivered to the customer, and you can click on the tick box. You'll see here that it will ask you to change that there won't be any signature. My side was just the date range, but there will need to be a signature. So you can carry on without them, but they can be set to be mandatory. Okay, now the last two options that we have here on the warehousing is just our inventory inquiries and our inventory inquiries by location. So this just displays information saying that, okay, this item here, we can look at it and see, okay, we have under our default, we have -11 because there still needs to be orders that have to be sent out. We have a purchase order for 7, and we still have a sales order for 1. Under the inventory inquiries by location is just stating for the entire location. So if we click on default, we're going to see that in bin 2 and in default, we have on hand 1,209, and these are the items that make up that quantity. On bin 02, we have all of these items that we've just added throughout the practice. This would be the warehousing side and the Salesforce side. Okay, if there's any questions based on these two modules under the mobile app, again, last week's mobile app training was a little more in-depth since we went through basically the entire process of the mobile app, but today we'll just be doing Salesforce and the warehousing section. So if you have any questions based off of those, you can let me know. You can type into chat or you can unmute if need be.
Hi, is it possible if I get the recording of the session?
Yes, you can. You can just send a request to the same email that sent this to you. They'll send you a recording of that.
Please say that again.
You could just send an email back to the same email that sent you the for the training. They'll send you the recording for today's session, or if you want another session, they'll be able to they'll send you that for that one as well.
Oh, okay, sure.
Great. Okay, great. I don't see any other questions coming in. We can.
Like where did you start? I didn't see like the starting process.
Sorry, what do you mean by the starting process?
Like where did you get like? Is this an app or something?
Yes, this is the mobile app.
Oh, okay.
Hi, I also have a question. I know I joined late here. I do have the app on my phone. What I just want to check is how far does the mobile the Salesforce go?
It will only go as far as updating your sales orders, capturing PODs, and if you have any delivery advices. You can't actually invoice out, you won't be able to. This is only to create freehand quotes, sales orders. So all these options that you see here, that's as far as it goes with Salesforce. You also have the delivery advice if need be.
Okay. So for the outbound sales, they are not able to invoice directly from the app.
No, they won't be able to.
What's the workflow there? How do they do it?
There is no workflow when it comes to invoicing on the mobile app. You'll only be able to create sales orders and sales quotes, as well as freehand quotes.
And then they can invoice from the office.
Then they'll invoice from the office, yes.
Because we have a customer that has got van sales. They're looking for a solution where they can actually invoice. So I don't know if they can use the sales order to receipt the customer, if that will be appropriate, and then when they get to the office, they can do the sales invoice.
Well, in your case, you can just do a sales order and then convert it at a later stage. So you'll have your sales order, and then you can just convert it into the invoice in the office. You can do it that way, but you won't be able to receipt the actual customer if they pay for it straight away. The invoice will only be done in the office.
Okay, all right. Why did you make it like that? Is there any reason for it not to be able to invoice at the customer side?
Unfortunately, I won't be able to give you an answer for something like that. It's the developer's side, fortunately.
Please, can you find out for me? I'm going to send an email. I want to know what's the logic, because we have got systems already that we are competing within the market that allows the customer to invoice, the van sales to invoice the customer and do everything without even coming.
I understand where you're coming from, but unfortunately, if it's something that Palladium does not provide, such as the invoicing with the mobile app, we won't be able to give you a reasoning for it. They'll only release new features, or if there's anything. You can send an email to wishlist@palladium.co.za. Then they can take it from there, but you'll have to wait for a response from that side.
Okay, that's all right. Much appreciated.
Not a problem.
All right.